Добрий день, друзі. Ми продовжуємо працювати для вас. Це Медіа-центр Україна. Нагадаю, що Медіа-центр Україна також працює у Львові. І зараз у нас на зв'язку радник уповноважена президента України з прав дитини та дитячої реабілітації Дар'я Герасимчук. З Дар'єю сьогодні поговоримо про надважливі теми. Це евакуація дітей та жінок, а також процедура усиновлення під час війни. Також Дар'я розповість про процедуру перетину кордону з дітьми. Прошу, Дар'я, ви в ефірі.
Слава Україні! На сьогоднішній момент 115 дітей, не можу замусити себе сказати загиблих, це вбиті діти, вбиті російськими окупантами, і понад 148 дітей отримали тяжкі поранення. Це ті цифри, які є у нас на сьогодні. Ці цифри не включають ті жертви, які є в окупованих містах, до яких немає можливості дібратися. Це місто Маріуполь і інші міста, де ще досі не розібрали завали. Там може бути ще досі під завалами діти і жінки. Тому поки що на сьогоднішній момент маємо такі цифри станом на 10 ранку сьогоднішнього дня. З приводу закладів освіти, це
institutions, that's also something we have to mention. Those are institutions where there are no military facilities in them, and the Russian invaders have been carrying out combat action even now. 72 educational institutions have been completely destroyed in different cities and towns of Ukraine. Currently, more than 2 million children, more than 2 million children have already crossed the border with their families, and we can say that institutions for children all across Ukraine, especially those from hottest areas, have been evacuated in safe places in Ukraine. If there are any safe places, or we have allocated them to different foreign facilities. We would like to thank all our foreign colleagues who support us and provide accommodation for our children and women. We make every effort to record all those children who cross the border and to have all those supporting documents so that later after the war we will be able to bring those children back to Ukraine, because we care first of all about our children. We care about them. We want them to have future in our country, and we make every effort to that end. It is good to see that Ukrainians are great people with great resilience. And now, in the wartime, Ukrainians demonstrate the very best features and the very best model example of joint efforts. And during the first days of the war, all social networks were full with messages from various people that they want to adopt a child, they want to help children, they are ready and willing to provide for some humanitarian needs and so on. And that's why there was a need for some single point of contact for people to gather to collect all those offers from people who want to have children. So more than 12 days ago, we created the Office of the President of Ukraine jointly with the Ministry for Social Policy and with support by UNICEF. We created that chatbot called Child is Not Alone. That's a Telegram chatbot with the following features. You can see there what to do if you have found some child outdoors not accompanied by any adults. Also, what to do if your own child is missing. And there you can submit 2 applications. One of them is for those Ukrainian citizens who are ready to temporarily place a child in their family, and also foreign organizations can submit an application whereby they would state that they want to provide accommodation for some organized groups of children in their respective country. And there is also a hotline to call and get answers to various questions about children. Now about the adoption procedure. I'd like to say that currently it's impossible to conduct adoption in Ukraine, because it's impossible to comply with all procedural requirements, because not all units for children and all courts have been working, and it's impossible to train people now, and the training is mandatory for adoptive parents, because adoption is not a temporary placement. Adoption is something that works forever. When you adopt a child, you will not bring that child back to an institution. So it's very important, and it's impossible to simplify or miss anything in the adoption procedure. So any adoption of children of Ukraine by either Ukrainian or foreign citizens is impossible at the moment. But we ask all those who has been willing to adopt a child. We do hope that those people will still be willing to adopt a child when we win, when the victory comes, and then that adoption process will work again, and we will be able to provide children with new families where they would feel comfortable and safe. But how people can help at the moment is that temporary placement. What does that temporary placement mean? This is not a new form. It did exist even before the war started, and that's to place a child in the family temporarily for free. The government does not pay anything for that. You just have to submit documents to the Children's Affairs Unit, and you wait until there is a child who needs temporary placement. It does not mean that we place all children with children institutions to families, because that's also quite traumatizing experience for people. You know, when a child has lived with a family for 2 or 3 months during the wartime, it will be quite difficult to part ways with that family. So now we're talking about the temporary placement of those children only whose parents have been at war, for example, in the military, or their parents are missing, or their parents have been hospitalized. So those are children who really need some temporary support from a different family. So you can submit an application in the chatbot and wait until that Children's Affairs Unit contact that family and tell them about the documents to be submitted. There is nothing very difficult there, but you have to submit a set of documents, and then there will be a procedure whereby the child would be placed. And in 12 days, there have already been applications from more than 12,000 Ukrainian families in the chatbot. Ukrainian families who are ready and willing to provide temporary accommodation to a child. That's a great indicator of our consolidation as a nation and our strength. Now about the foreign citizens, we have run into a problem whereby some volunteer organizations and even governments in other countries do not always understand our requirements, whereby we request certain set of documents, and only after that we can send a group, an organized group of children for temporary placement. Why does it happen this way? Because we cannot send a group of children to just some NGO without having any confirmation that those children will be registered with the consulate in the country where they will come, that those children will be cared for, and that there will be an obligation to bring those children back as soon as there is a victory in this war and the invaders leave our country. So we ask everybody to execute those proper documents as soon as possible, and to understand those requirements, and to maintain communications with Ukrainian government, Ukrainian authorities, if you want to provide such accommodation to those children. Now, we are not talking about Ukrainian children to be placed to individual families in other countries, again, because now we cannot provide 100% safe conditions for children in a different country. And, you know, to get children out of some danger and move them to another danger, that would be a serious problem. That's why we don't want it, and we ask international and foreign organizations, volunteer groups and so on, we ask them for understanding please understand our requirements, and please don't panic, and please prepare and provide all the required documents. Now, the procedure for crossing the border. There has been a simplified procedure to cross the border. What does it mean? Previously, when parents wanted to carry their child through a border, a parent would have to have an authorized consent from the other parent, or for grandfather or grandmother or other relatives to transport their child abroad. Previously, there would be a notarized power of attorney and consent required. Currently, there is no such requirement. A child under the age of 16 can be transported abroad by grandfather, grandmother, aunt, uncle, if that child has all the documents. One parent can transport that child. On the other hand, if that child is transported by just a friend or other relatives, not the nearest relatives, then there should be consent. You have to visit the Children's Affairs unit at your location, and one of the parents has to sign an application stating who will be transporting the child, and the child will be let through with that application. From 16 to the age of 18, children can cross the border using their own passports. Now, I will share some information about disabled children. There is a list of documents required. So, a father who has a disabled child, will not be mobilized to the armed forces. They have to visit the military commissioner's office and submit documents about their child disability, and they will be released from mobilization. That's also very important. We would like to ask all Ukrainian citizens to remember about it, because without registration, nobody will let Ukrainian children through the border, because we are responsible for each and every child in Ukraine. Now about the educational process. To continue education and in order to provide an opportunity for those children to be in a better psycho-emotional condition, it's important for children to have some of their previous life with them. So when there was education, the children feel better. So from Monday, we started that remote education process wherever possible. Now we have also been collecting requests from western regions where many families with children have moved. We collect requirements about the needs for gadgets there to be able to continue education. We have a number of partner organizations who have been ready and willing to support the procurement of such gadgets for children to continue their education in Ukraine, their schooling, and also those children who have crossed the border and who have now been in other countries will also start schooling in local schools, local educational institutions, and the Ministry of Education of Ukraine is supervising that process. Currently, there has been a coordination center created by the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine for the protection of children's rights. I'm the co-chair of that center, of that staff, jointly with the Ministry of Social Policies. Minister of Social Policies. We are co-chairs of that coordination headquarters, and we have people from all those ministries and agencies there, and we quickly resolve all issues about protecting children's rights in Ukraine. And we work 24/7 on all those matters. Now I'll say something about fake information. Unfortunately, there is a lot of fake information disseminated in Ukraine and abroad. This is some sort of sabotage. Their messages, they look like this. For example, 500 children from Kyiv who have just lost their parents have been brought to a different city abroad or to some city in Ukraine. They need urgent adoption. They need urgent humanitarian aid, and somebody even starts collecting funds for those children. We ask everybody, please be very careful. Please check that information before disseminating it. Usually there is a contact phone number in such messages, and it's important to call there and to check in person where have those children come from, where they have been moved, and whether there is really a need for humanitarian aid, and only after that you disseminate those messages. This is a very important factor in fighting those fakes. And as I said before, adoption does not work at all in Ukraine at the moment. Also, you know, even if children have just lost their parents, they have not obtained the official status of an orphan as yet, or a child that does not have proper parental care, so they cannot even be registered as a child to be adopted. So please don't disseminate such messages about children who need adoption. Thank you, Daria. Thank you very much for this important information. There will be questions for you. You're welcome. Good afternoon. I'm Viktor Melnikov, special reporter for CGTN. Could you please repeat how many children during this time have died and how many have been wounded? As of 10 a.m. today, 115 children have been killed and 148 children have been heavily wounded. Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you, Daria. No more questions here. Thank you, friends, for staying with us. And I'd like to remind you that at 2:45 p.m. we'll have a speaker of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine with us, and he'll tell us about the current situation on the front lines. Thank you.